She still came to visit her friends and family, but only for a short amount of time. Even visiting her friends became more and more brief. And one day, she stopped visiting altogether. After giving it some thought after being on tour for 2 years in Canterlot, Sweetie Belle came to see her friends Apple Bloom and Scootaloo back in Ponyville. Things were exactly how they were when she had left. The same ponies, the same buildings, and the same atmosphere. Boring, Sweetie Belle thought to herself, as she made her way down to the Sugar Cube corner. Sweetie Belle wasn't interested in anything but her friends at the moment, so she spent most of her time looking for them, but with no luck. For some reason, she couldn't find out where the most important ponies in the world were. Maybe they're at the clubhouse we used to hang out at, Sweetie Belle said with a smile. But even though she remembered everything about Ponyville like it was yesterday, she couldn't remember where the clubhouse was. Neither could she remember what they were called. Damn! Where the hell is that place? What were we called again? Sweetie Belle cursed as she lifted up her sunglasses from her eyes and scratched her chin. Little did she know, Sweetie Belle had become a snooty, snuck-up rich mare who was now used to every pony pampering her and doing anything she wanted. Sweetie Belle made her way towards Twilight's house, figuring that she must know where they might be. I wonder if Twilight even still lives here. I haven't bothered visiting or sending any letters to any pony in Ponyville. Who knows? She might even be dead. Sweetie Belle said to herself as she approached the front door to the library. Yo, Twi, you in there? Said Sweetie Belle, knocking on the library door. And who might this be? Said a voice that was instantly recognized by Sweetie Belle. Twilight's voice hasn't changed a bit, thought Sweetie Belle before she answered. It's me, Sweetie Belle, Rarity's little sister, she said with a slight attitude. Suddenly, the library door began to glow purple as it swung open, and a purple mare quickly stepped out from it. Twilight, you haven't changed a bit, said Sweetie Belle in a bored tone. Suddenly, Twilight lunged at Sweetie Belle and gave her a warm, loving hug. It's great to see you again, Sweetie Belle, said Twilight in a calm voice. Hey, get off me! Sweetie shouted, pushing Twilight from her. You messed up my mane, Sweetie said as she fluffed her mane out. Twilight looked at Sweetie Belle and frowned, but then she began to giggle as she came to realize something. You're becoming more and more like your sister, just as I predicted you would be, giggled Twilight. Yeah, whatever. Just tell me if you know where they are so I can find Apple Bloom and Scootaloo, said Sweetie Belle, clearly not amused by Twilight's humor. Twilight's ears dropped as she quickly stopped giggling. I'm not sure where they are. Maybe you should ask Rarity. She might know where they are, said Twilight quietly. Ugh, so useless, said Sweetie Belle with a grunt as she turned her back to Twilight, whipping her tail in the air, and trotted out the door with her head held high. Sweetie Belle knew exactly where she was going. Rarity was her sister after all, and she had been making most of her dresses for her performances. Rarity, are you in here? Sweetie Belle shouted as she approached the front door to her sister's boutique. Rarity was quick to open the door, for she knew who it was. Oh, Sweetie Belle, I've missed you so much, said Rarity as she hugged her little sister, a single tear running down her face. Sweetie Belle wanted to push her away, but as she did with Twilight. But what kind of sister would she be had she done that? Yeah, I missed you too, Sweetie Belle said as if she were disgusted by her sister. Oh, dear sister, come quickly. What do you think of the new dress I made you? I've spent weeks on it non-stop, Rarity said with a forced smile, trying to make her sister happy. Sweetie Belle took a gander at the dress that was on the mannequin. The dress was the color of a thistle, and glitter that looked like stars in the night sky, and a strip of pink ribbon dangled across each ankle. And to top it all off, slung around the waist of the dress was a single large pink bow with stripes of yellow ribbon that came along the edges. So, what do you think? Asked Rarity with a worried smile. Sweetie Belle was silent for a moment, then answered. This is a piece of crap. Is this supposed to be the dress for my upcoming concert? Sweetie Belle said with a confused look. Rarity stood there, as still as any stone, gem, or emerald she had ever found. For a few moments all was silent, until Rarity's eyes began to well up. What do you mean, Sweetie Belle? Isn't it simply marvelous? Rarity said with a nervous smile. Sweetie Belle looked at her older sister, then the dress, then back at her sister, like she was observing them both, looking deep into the hard work and effort her sister had put into the dress itself. I mean, it looks horrible, Sweetie Belle said, looking angrily at her sister, snatching her glasses off from her face. Rarity only stood there in shock of what she had just heard. The colors aren't even bright enough. It doesn't suit me at all, and it just looks too plain boring, Sweetie Belle said, stomping her way towards her sister. With each stomp that Sweetie Belle did, slowly closing in on her, Rarity slowly cowered backwards. What happened to you, Sweetie Belle? What did you do to my sister? Rarity said, her voice cracking with every word that came out of her lips. What happened to me? What happened to you? Sweetie said, a look of pure anger on her face. You used to be the greatest fashion designer in all of Ponyville, but now you're just useless, just like Twilight, shouted Sweetie Belle as she stomped out of Rarity's boutique and used her magic to slam the door behind her. Rarity was still inside, sobbing. Maybe Applejack can help. Apple Bloom is her sister, after all, Sweetie Belle thought to herself as she made her way towards the Sweet Apple Acres. As Sweetie Belle came to the barn door, she raised her hoof to knock on it, but then was interrupted. Hey there, Sugar Cube. It's good to see y'all again. Sweetie Belle knew that thick country accent anywhere. How could she ever forget? Hello, Applejack, Sweetie said with a sigh. So how's your evening going? Listen, Applejack, I'm only here to make small talk. Let me ask you one thing and I'll be on my way. Sure thing, Sugar Cube. So what is it y'all needing to know? Asked Applejack, raising a brow. Might you know where my friends Scootaloo and Apple Bloom are? Sweetie asked in a formal voice. Applejack scratched at her chin and looked up in the air for a moment, trying to find the answer to Sweetie's question. Suddenly, she looked at her with a big smile, as if a light bulb turned on in her head. Well, the two of them are up in the Cutie-Mark Crusader clubhouse, of course, Applejack said with a smile. Sorry, but I kind of forgot where that is, Sweetie Belle said, scratching the back of her head. Well, don't you worry your little head off. Let old Applejack show you the way, said Applejack, scuffling Sweetie's mane. Applejack led the way to the clubhouse, talking non-stop about how she hears about Sweetie Belle and her progression. Sweetie Belle clearly wasn't enjoying the trip. Ugh! I don't know how much more of this I can take. She's starting to sound like that crazy Pinkie Pie, Sweetie Belle thought to herself as she rolled her eyes in annoyance. After what seemed like an eternity, her little adventures with Applejack came to an end. Hey, Crusaders! Y'all got a little visitor down here you might want to come talk to, Applejack said, capturing the attention of some pony who had been inside the small treehouse. I remember this place, Sweetie Belle whispered to herself, and a small smile on her face. Tell him to come up here. I'm busy and I can't come down right now, shouted a slightly unrecognizable voice. Feeling too chicken to come down here and talk, huh? It seems like you're still the same chicken as before, right, Scootaloo? Sweetie Belle said, teasing the pony in the treehouse. Is that who I think it is? Said Scootaloo. In the fur, Sweetie Belle responded. Sweetie Belle! Shouted Scootaloo as she popped her head out of the window. Scootaloo raced out and hugged her. I missed you so much, Sweetie Belle said in her normal voice, crying tears of joy as she took advantage of the hug, which seemed to last an eternity. Well, I'll be going. I got a lot of apple bucking to do. You two girls have fun now. Please stay as long as you'd like, Sugar Cube, Applejack said. Well, what are you waiting for? Let's go inside and talk, said Scootaloo. Sweetie Belle wondered what could possibly be so interesting about the old clubhouse. It had been 2 years after all. They should have outgrown it by now. Yep, just as I expected, said Sweetie Belle as she entered the house. Nothing seemed to have changed since she left, but for some reason, it gave Sweetie Belle a heartwarming feeling just to be standing inside. This brings back some good memories, Sweetie Belle said, using her magic to lift up a small picture frame that sat on the shelf. Inside was a picture of the Cutie Mark Crusaders toppled over each other in a pony pile. Apple Bloom and Sweetie Belle lay flat on their stomachs, and Scootaloo lay on top of them like a small, filly pyramid. All their faces had great smiles stretched from ear to ear. They all looked happy. Sweetie Belle suddenly realized something. Where was Apple Bloom? She thought to herself, slowly placing the picture back on the shelf. Before Sweetie Belle could ask any questions, Scootaloo had to tell her something. Hey, Sweetie Belle, I wanted to congratulate you again on getting your cutie mark and becoming a singer, said Scootaloo. Sadly, I hadn't gotten mine yet. I guess I'm a late bloomer. A really late bloomer, Scootaloo said, staring at the ground. So, you and Apple Bloom are still remaining Crusaders, huh? Asked Sweetie Belle, clearly knowing the answer to her question. Yeah, but at least we still have each other, right? Scootaloo tried to change the subject. Yeah. So where's Apple Bloom anyway? Sweetie asked. Oh, she's helping Granny Smith with some zap apples. She should be back any time now, said Scootaloo with a grin. So, how is she doing? Sweetie Belle asked. Well, Scootaloo paused for a moment. Well, ever since you stopped coming to visit, you started sending letters, but then you stopped doing that too, and, well, ever since then, she hasn't really been the same, said Scootaloo. The look of pure sadness filled her eyes. She would sit at her mailbox for hours every Thursday just waiting for your next letter about your career. But after a few months, you stopped sending to us. I stopped bothering to check my mail, but Apple Bloom, on the other hand, didn't. Tears started to well up in her eyes. Even months after you stopped sending, she would still wait at her mailbox for hours, just waiting. She looked horrible. She was breaking down from emotional pain, and I couldn't stand to look at her like that. She was clearly crying. No matter what the weather was, rainy, snowy, windy, she even sat out during a tornado. She was corrupt because of you, Scootaloo said, slightly raising her voice. Don't you raise your voice at me, Scootaloo, Sweetie Belle said as she took a few steps towards her. Scootaloo didn't feel threatened. She had also been closing in on Sweetie Belle. What happened to you? Said Scootaloo as she slumped on the ground and began to cry. Suddenly another voice appeared in the clubhouse. Hey, Scootaloo, The pony paused for a moment, then leapt at Sweetie Belle, shoving her away from Scootaloo. Her mane was covering her eyes, but it was clear to Sweetie Belle who it was. Apple Bloom? Asked Sweetie Belle in a whisper. Then she asked again, a bit louder. Apple Bloom, is that you? It's me, Sweetie Belle. Suddenly, Apple Bloom shouted, I know exactly who you are! As Apple Bloom shouted, she quickly raised her hand and revealing her face. Her mane and coat had become a darker shade than their usually bright yellow and red colors. The bow on her head was dirty and torn, like she had been attacked by some timber wolves. Her eyes were bloodshot, bags of red and purple sagged beneath them, and she had a look of pure hate in them. Dear Celestia, what happened to you? You look awful, said Sweetie Belle, backing away from her with a disgusted look. Oh, so now you care about me. Now when I'm like this? Sweetie Belle couldn't find the right words to say. The only thing she knew was that Apple Bloom was angry, and so was she. I waited for you. I sat in the rain for you. Hell, I even sat in a tornado just for you. You didn't come by, and it's not like I didn't try to contact you. I wrote you every day. Sweetie Belle became angry and yelled back at her. Well, the letters you sent me were always boring. They were always talking about how you and Scoots were such failures at finding your cutie marks, and I couldn't have you girls holding me back, so I stopped writing. Oh, so you were too busy to spend a little time with your friends? What a bunch of bullcrap, screamed Apple Bloom.